Chase Lofton headlines a big recruiting weekend for Nebraska. There are a number of high-profile visitors that will be making their way in, but Chase Lofton being an in-state name, a four-star Florida State commit, I think it's extremely notable, and I do think there's a really high likelihood that he's going to flip to Nebraska.
Pretty interesting conversation in that it was fairly predictable, right? With Florida State having one win this year, Florida State one win. Sean, I can remember you talking back in September about if Florida State keeps struggling, would Lofton be back in the picture? It's part of the reason why you never stop recruiting these kids. You don't stop. When they commit, you don't stop. Or you don't completely stop. So, this is a tight end state. And here's another one. It's a tight end state. Sean.
His own teammate, Isaac Jensen, is a tight end recruit for the next year. And then Vince Genatone's first cousin, Ludwig, out of Montana, is another tight end recruit. I mean, they are in high cotton with tight ends.
So Lofton's here, and then there's an edge rusher from Wichita coming in.
Yeah, another name I want to keep tabs on, and there's a lot this weekend. It's a bit. I want to emphasize this. They're all in on this weekend because you may not get another one. The Wisconsin game might be at 11 a.m. You don't know what you can do with that. We don't know that yet. But Hunter Higgins out of Wichita Mays South is a defensive end for 2026. Some outlets have him the number one player in Kansas.
Really?
Some have him at 8, some have him at 4. He's kind of all over the map, but he's got Oklahoma, Michigan, and Nebraska, among others, who have offered him. This is a guy that I actually recently put an RPM pick in to be a commit to Nebraska. So keep your eyes on Hunter Higgins, one of the top players in Kansas, a defensive lineman at 6'5", 225. I think he is a name that, if I had to put a chip down, I think he's a Husker when it's all said and done. And Sip, the Dawson Merritt conversation continues.
Yes.
And that's another one. Like, I would not be surprised if he ends up at Nebraska.
Well, think about this. I love this stuff so much. It's big. This is a big weekend. It's a big visitor weekend. Nebraska can get bowl eligible. Think about the good vibe in that building on Saturday night, Sean, with these recruits in town, Saturday night and Sunday morning. The vibe at Nebraska, if they are able to beat UCLA, it's what Rules wants to tell these kids. He wants to show them what he's doing is working, and not just tell them, show them. Okay, now we're bowl eligible, and we have 3 games left, and there's a lot of pressure off. Let's see what this team can do. The recruits will pick up on that vibe. This is God. It's a huge game.
Yeah, because it's a 2:30 game, and then you could have like the evening to be with these recruits and their families, and
the vibe's good. It's not. You know how the vibe gets. I mean, come on, Sean. If Nebraska were to lose this game, you got to leave open a possibility, always, because this is a sport, and you don't always get what you want. The vibe, if they lose, will be really rough. Scared, will be kind of scary in a way.
There's a big group of top Mississippi players coming up here well, with Lawrence Hopkins, the stepfather of Dante Dowdell, who's a trainer in that area down there. And I mean, these are 4-star level guys, like 3 or 4 of them coming up here for the game. So this is a big opportunity, and recruiting is so different now in terms of the timeline. And I'm talking 2026, because for a lot of these 2026s, you're trying to get them here to a home game. Then you want to get them back on your campus
in the summer.
Well, in the spring.
In the spring.
You want another visit in January, March, or April.
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
That's your second crack.
Yeah.
Then you get them back in June and you close them.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a 3-pronged step for these out-of-state people that come from a long distance. You get them here for a game, you get them here for a springish type visit, and then you get them here for a June visit, and then you close.
It's a huge. This visitor weekend is a huge part of this weekend. I mean, it's not always that way. Like you said, it's not going to be this way necessarily in the next 3 games or the last home game.
And they've gone all in, and Brian Munson has already put some good lists together on the visitors. So get on the website, Husker Online. We'll have more coverage of the visitors all throughout the weekend from Brian. But Major recruiting weekend for Nebraska.
And Sean, I want to say one thing. I don't want to sound alarmist if they lose, but some of this, when we talk like this, is just reality based. This is reality.
It's a 7-point spread or 6.5 point spread.
Well, and what I'm talking about is just the possibility of losing. I mean, life isn't always easy. It doesn't always go like you think. Us talking about the possibility of losing is what it is. It's a big weekend. This is a big game for Nebraska. You can mock UCLA all you want. You can look at this any way you want. I only look at it as huge. This is a gigantic game for Nebraska's program.
To get an 8-year monkey off their back.
Right.
I've used this analogy about our state with kids. Kids from grades 1st grade through 8th grade right now, that period of window when they were going to school, I've not seen, like an 8th grader in Nebraska has not seen Nebraska go to a bowl game since they were in 1st grade. And
Right.
think about your childhood, how big that window was from 1st to 8th grade, how much that window shaped your sports memories and sports love.
Absolutely. And here, I'm going to close this headline.
Did you write a sermon there, preacher?
Well, I just went back and I wrote down all of Coach Rule's key comments. And this is what he said on Monday. To be honest, this is Coach Rule. I think this game will tell us where we are coming off these last 2 weeks. It's gonna tell
it's a measuring stick.
It's gonna tell you these four games are gonna tell you a lot about the progress this program is or isn't making. I mean, it's time. November's gigantic. He told his kids that the big months are November, December, and January in college football. For Nebraska, December and January have been dark, null and void. The void.
Hey, you send your team home at Thanksgiving.
It's horrifying to drive by that place in December and see it dark.
You basically lose your team from Thanksgiving to Martin Luther King Day.
Bam. You just said it. Can't have that.
I mean, they lift a little bit here, but you know what I'm saying.
There's not much activity over there.
Yeah, a lot.
You don't want a dark training facility in December. You don't want that.